Hey guys, Ballatw here, back with another VOD review, and yes, I'm back. I'm actually back. This time it's for real. I'm not gonna just drop one video on you guys and bounce. I got a VOD review that I did today, and I'm gonna basically summarize all the different things that I learned. I watched literally every Stark Industries game that I could in the early game from the Llobeti Cup that happened over the weekend in EU, which was a tournament hosted by the Spanish streamer and pro player for Team Heretics. $3.5 thousand put up by him in Epic Games, and they put on this tournament. It was really good. It was really fun to watch. It was basically the first real trios tournament that EU has gotten. It wasn't customs. It was only the top 100 players out of 3 different stages. So it started with top 1,000, moved into top 100 into round 3. But it was still a lot of fun to watch. It kind of reminded me of the old FNCS trios Sunday finals games where it was, you know, top 150 trios rather than just one set of players in a lobby. So regardless, I watched 9 games on stream of the early games of Stark Industries and tried to learn and break down all the different strategies that teams are employing with this new POI. And no matter what happened there, I would try to analyze and learn from it in any case. The major teams landing there were, of course, mitr0, Tayson, and Mongraal, Stompy, Dietrix, and Vidil, Aqua, Riley, and Reason, Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD, and there were definitely a lot more that I don't have time to list, but those were the major teams. Those were the ones we repetitively saw, and also saw them employ the same strats over and over with slight differences and variations depending on the circumstances that unfolded throughout the games. With all that being said, I kind of had my own judgments about what I saw, and basically I decided that it was Stompy, Dietrix, and Vidil who had the most solid strats overall, so we'll get into that and we'll look at them. But in terms of depth and in terms of really some teams that can really take it very far no matter what happens, I think Aqua, Riley, and Reason had the deepest playbook out of anybody. They had options. They were not always relying on the same 50-50s that everybody else was doing, and they would do a bunch of variety of different things and survived in a lot of different instances. With all that being said, you can make whatever judgments you want, especially after watching this video, but enough is enough. Let's get into the video. Let's get into the breakdowns. So, game 1, uncontested. There's literally nobody here. Nobody on the entire Stark Island. It was pretty weird. We moved on fairly quickly from this because clearly it's an outlier. When I zoom in on the map, literally nobody. There's one player who usually is landing Steamy, Scram with Refs and Kaiser. I'd call this an outlier. We literally have nobody here. Nobody's gonna get the vault. Nobody's gonna get Iron Man. We moved on really quickly from this, but regardless, whatever. Let's move on. Okay, so next game, we actually had Flick, Thomas, and Anas landing here, and there was another team who ended up splitting off and going risky reels. They looked like they wanted to land here, but ended up just leaving it to Flick, Thomas HD, and Anas. And the first thing I'm noticing is for these guys, they all land main. Of course, Thomas HD up above. He lands on the chest, and we'll see this as a theme over and over, and he also scouts for those extra people who landed out towards risky reels. But I asked myself, why were they all landing main? And the first thought I had, okay, it's all Iron Man, they want to rush the vault, whatever. But when uncontested, I figured, you know, they would go for a split up on Hangar. I think they'd get main. I think they'd get some portion of vault. Even deeper, I think that they might even extend all the way down to the lake. Why not, if it's uncontested, as hard as it is here? In any case, we kind of understood and realized that the best way to drop is actually off of this cliff, no matter what. Even if you're coming, even if the bus is coming from this side, you want to attack it from this angle just because of the steep fall-offs and whatnot like that. It's always going to be from this side. There's almost no drops that make sense for Hangar. There was one thing I forgot to mention with Flick's path when he ends up getting into the garage. Instead of dropping on top of the chest, which he definitely full well could, he spends the extra, or saves some extra time by literally just dropping all the way to the floor and breaking it out. You'll see some newer players not do this, and this is the type of efficiency that you expect out of pro players, and you also actually save you some serious time down the line. Something that actually becomes very important later on in the review is the rifts, and I want to know, even though uncontested, Flick hears the rift here and is instantly looking to see what these guys are doing at and out of risky reels. And instantly I noticed like that was an instant reaction for Flick, and also means that he's probably conditioned to look for it. Of course, we're all conditioned to look for rifts, but specifically here, there's an idea of splitting off landing risky and then coming up onto Stark Industries because it's a nice spot to fight. There's not necessarily too many third-party opportunities on Stark Industries early, and also the reward is just so big. The timing seems to be that the rifts will go off after looting risky and going towards the rifts, and pushing will be at the same time as the vault opening in an uncontested situation. That's definitely something to note, and clearly you could see Flick was ready for it. Flick was already thinking about how this is actually going to affect them down the line. All right, so game 3 was another uncontested drop by mitr0, Tayson, and Mongraal in this case, and we'll get into the nuances of their drops a little bit later, but the one big thing I want to note is over here with Tayson is that he's landing on the front side, not like we saw from Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD. He lands on the front side, grabs a floor spawn, and then gets right into the car and beams it over towards the hangar. So I was kind of wondering whether that is a faster drop, especially when the bus is coming from this side of the map. If that is a faster drop to get towards hangar, my guess is yes, and that's the reason why he's doing it, but also it allows him to have a car to come out of hangar because there's actually no car spawns inside of the hangar. That's a different little intricacy that you got to think about, and Tayson does it well. One of the things that we noted with this team was that they kind of sped for the vault. Didn't necessarily care about all the different loots. Of course, they do get the Stark chests and whatever, but aside from that, it's like, okay, I'm gonna take out Iron Man and I'm gonna go straight for the vault. And mitr0 goes like as fast as possible. I think these guys are vibing a little bit, but this is the things that you expect out of this trio. Takes a whiplash by himself, opens the vault by himself so that he can get the best weapons possible. I thought this was hilarious because Mongraal does literally the same thing without looting anything else. Just a little loot hungry, and I like it. I like it from these guys. It's hilarious. Meanwhile, Tayson's all on his lonesome over here, farming the crappy brick fences, like I said, and also here's the stones that are here. You can get a decent amount of brick, pretty close to max, but not all the way there, and that is an issue that we need to start thinking about, especially now. The next 6 games that we watched were all contested and contested heavily. Mat imbalances became a thing that these guys needed to think about. All right, if things weren't spicy enough for you, things heated up really quickly. The rest of the games that we watched were all fights. Not necessarily the biggest fights, but there were some big fights too. So let's watch this game and see how it all unfolded. There were 3 teams who landed here, and I do want to show the map real quick because I want to show Reason's perspective of what he's doing and what Aqua are doing and what Noah Riley's doing. You can still see Aqua literally close to Stark. What he's doing is actually scouting and seeing, is everybody fighting at main? And this comes out to really an important factor later on when they do end up rifting, but they use the options. This is what I was talking about when they had a deep playbook. They see that there's 2 teams landing here and they're saying, okay, that's going to be fine. Our timing is going to work out with 3 teams if we land risky reels and then push in later. So we'll see how that all unfolds. But the fight here itself is actually a 2 versus 1 and another 2 versus 1 split right down the middle. And I know the Stark robots names here are, they're kind of blocking everything, but they split it down in half. One end on the balcony right here, and then the other guys over at the lab, over at the, you know, the little garage that is there, the little test facility and whatnot. One team is here with 2 against Vidil, who's this barcode, and then Toos, which is the other one player from that trio, is landing with Dietrich, and this is Stompy. What happened, men, is Stompy, and I want to show what actually happens up here, which is Stompy and Dietrich both have really good drops. One through the balcony window and one on the balcony itself for the Stark chest. If there was an idea here from Toos, it's gone now, because he sees that he's losing this drop and Dietrich is coming in too. If he wants to 50-50 and try to, you know, get the weapon out of the chest when it opens, yeah, good luck with that, because Dietrich is going to be pickaxing you moments later, and they're both going to be pickaxing you down with the 20 that it does. That's a common strat on EU. It happens all the time. In any case, he opts not to go there and instantly has to decide what's the plan from here. Meanwhile, Vidil on the other side, dropping with these guys, a little bit more confident and also a little bit easier of a plan. He's not going for any 50-50s, a quick floor spawn and a chest, and then he's playing slow and careful. Meanwhile, Toos has nowhere to go. How could he have played this better? I think the way that he did this, which was really nice, because he showed me that you could probably death run jump over into this window. In any case, I think the better idea for him was to try to go down out this window and play this kind of like lucky landing and just try to delay as much as possible for Stormy Right and Rotary to kind of catch back up. But instead, he kind of dives back over towards his teammates, maybe gets towards Vidil. Anyways, Vidil delayed for a little bit. They didn't really know where he was. He got the weapons that he needed, and then he's down in these hallways. And I was likening these hallways to kind of the old Frosty Flights and how Aqua and Stompy had played those back in the day, where they were setting up a lot of ambushes. It's not quite like that because there's not time to set up the ambushes, but it could play like that. So that was kind of the idea. And they do have a nice flank with Toos ending up being over here and Rotary running down the hallway, but Vidil gets to jump and then hits some nasty shots, and we'll watch him play out. And also the ridiculous kind of boogie bomb play as the rest of the team pinches from the side. And that's kind of the space that I was talking about too. So here's the boogie bomb. Ridiculous. Of course, that first shot was absolutely unreal. Vidil ended up doing a bunch of nasty stuff here throughout the day, but wipes them all. Meanwhile, this is all going on, and we still have the big boss, because Aqua, Noah Riley, and Reason, their entire idea over and over when landing as this is their option was to straight up take the rift and go from there as quick as possible, no matter what. Thankfully, they did get loadouts that were pretty good, and I'd have to imagine that this is pretty loadout dependent, but after farming, they go quick. And the thing that I was noting was that they have much more of a material imbalance compared to them. These guys have farmed some, wood fences. They farmed a couple of RVs, some metal. There's a lot of trees on their way to the rift, which is located right around here. So they should have a big base of materials comparatively to these guys who take out Iron Man. They get the siphon, but other than that, what good mats are there inside of this building? Nothing really, right? There's some metal if you're spending the time to farm, but if you're quickly going to this vault, you end up with 16 builds right here on Stompy, which is just a siphon. Dietrich's also 13 builds, just a siphon, and then Vidil 9 builds. Compare that as they opened the vault to this team. Reason 41. Aqua 49, Noah Riley gonna be at 49 as well, and they're rifting on them as they're opening the vault and basically just sitting in here. So the big question is, how do they respond to this? I was thinking that there's definitely some ideas of, not all being in the vault at the same time. Take your time with opening it after you win this opening fight, and maybe do some things like post up here, post up on the tower, maybe post up on main, maybe just post up on tower and main, and let the other person loot the vault and take turns, while when these guys rift, all of a sudden this is not a play that's viable anymore. This is like pushing a big hill against a full trio. It just doesn't make any sense. Instead, what happens, they're very high up. They're getting the lay of the land. They don't really know where things are, but they did see that full trio get wiped with no downs, so they have to assume that they're in the vault. And they take a lot of control of Hangar, for example, unlooted at this point. There's still a Stark chest. Aqua was hanging around this area at the beginning of the drop before bouncing down the hill towards Risky Reels. So he knew there was nobody Hangar. That's unlooted, and we know that these guys want to continue to hold on to this loot. They shouldn't. In my mind, the play right now, after Aqua makes this brilliant read to go on top of Hangar and try to get the extra loot, in my mind, the play now is to bounce. And this is why I think it was so nice. They start a little car chase across the way, and it ends up being, a pretty dynamic, normal fight that we won't necessarily fully watch, except for basically this initiation, because I think the initiation is the important part of how this all unfolds and why the strategy from Noah Riley, Aqua, and Reason is so good. The initiation was funny because Whiplash straight on the Aqua. He did so much damage to them, but regardless, this fight ends up going on, and it's basically just, normal fight, and there's nothing too much more to learn about early game strategy when you're thinking about this fight in specific. But the point stands, right? This is kind of an ego play from the team who landed Stark Industries against, a pretty brilliant play in my mind from Reason and them. And I think there's preventative measures that can be taken, specifically learn the timing of when this rift can happen. Just like we saw when Flick heard that rift, he was already looking to make sure that this was not coming. Okay, so this one was a little bit of a default win from Tayson, Mongraal, and mitr0, and a default win to me is when the strat is way better than the other strat. In this case, they're playing against Chapix, Queasy, and Milan, which is a very good team. I didn't see them land too much more at Stark Industries, but what they did was, I think, viable, but executed a little probably suboptimally, and Mongraal, Tayson, and mitr0 take perfect advantage of this. The player I want to watch off spawn is actually Milan, but I do want to talk about their split significantly. Milan does the Tayson thing where he grabs the cars, and even Queasy also grabs the car, which will come into effect a little later, but I do want to point out how Milan actually just straight up crashes into this, which, you know, negates the mats that he can get from farming the mitr0 rack, but breaking through, like, he gets the chest really fast in comparison to Tayson in the last time. Let's take a look more now at the split. The split is 2 cars now elapsed, gone out of here. They're, you know, splitting 2 between Hangar, and we can talk about the efficiencies of that. There is a lot of floor loot here, but there's only 3 chests, including the start chest. Chapix has, you know, 1 chest plus a lot of floor loot here in a good power position, and I want to show that for a second because I think there is some space for him to like kind of hold on up here and kind of counter what mitr0, Mongraal, and them do later on. mitr0 lands on and 50-50s the start chest with Mongraal, which we saw was very important to have as a plan to make sure that they don't end up 50-50ing, even if you have the best drop. Regardless, after that, he goes up top. And the idea here is to scout. What is this other team doing? Did they get on top of main? Did they do anything else? Can I take advantage of anybody's awkward positioning? So going up on top of the power position, not only a scouting play, but potentially just, you know, dominating a mistake from the other side. There are mistakes. And again, I think Chapix maybe stays a little bit in towards the center. Instead, he's kind of like crash padding around, and I don't quite understand this. I think he tried to get over towards Hangar. In any case, he gets left in the open here with no car because they've taken both of them. mitr0 and them are all going to be able to take advantage of that. He sees the big pot, wants to go for it, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I did note that these bushes here out in the open are the place to get quick wood if you do need to prepare for a fight, but this is not it. Chapix out in the open right now where there's 3 players on main from so many different angles that could eventually end up really pressuring him, and that's what does happen. I think maybe landing, you know, tower, center, while these guys are all focused on 50-50ing over here just in case, and then also Hangar, that might be a play because you could quickly loot center and get to Hangar or tower without getting pushed. You do give up some time and some established presence up on the power position of tower, but who knows? It depends. I think this is viable. I don't think you're winning against all this loot here, but you do have opportunities to disengage and also take advantage of mistakes that do happen occasionally, especially if there's a fight going on at main. This might be one of the most viable counter splits when there's 2 teams landing here, but when one is, probably not. So let's watch how the rest of this plays out. We'll just 2 times it because it's not that interesting, to be honest. You can see mitr0 eventually gave up the power position up there, but I do like the firing squad on the balcony with Tayson. It's just impossible. Milan even drives a car over, but that just adds even more hurt because now Milan got blown up by it too. Queasy's coming over to try to save, but at this point, all is lost. And they do end up chasing without opening vault yet. And that's fine. I think that they're definitely going to get something out of it. But the issue is that Queasy ended up finding a llama. So it costed these guys a little bit more than they probably wanted. But still, Queasy made this expensive for them. Not game killing, but it could have been game killing. All right, so this is the 6th game we watched, and we're starting to get into hot drop territory during the tournament. So I did want to show one thing is that no matter how far up north this butts path is, if you're landing for this balcony, and that's mostly what people are doing right now, you're almost always coming off this south side and landing from there. Just like pretty much everybody who's landing here at this stage. There was a lot that happened in this game, so we'll try to break it down, but it was a little weird for Flick, Thomas, and Anas. Even though they had this idea of, you know, making sure that they get this 50-50 down, they had the safety net of players landing near them as well and on top of the roof, but instead Thomas goes for a strange 50-50 against Vadil. Like, he's already landed, he's already gotten the gun, he goes down really fast, and then there's Moki, Mavjo, and them as well. In any case, Flick gets this, and it's just too powerful against just floor loot spawns and, you know, 1 or 2 chest spawns from everybody. All the loot too. He looks around, goes to garage. You know, he likes this garage spawn, and also I love the knowledge that he has to be able to bounce around in these different areas, jump off the balcony. Very reminiscent of the Authority in terms of fighting conditions. As we got towards the tail end, things got definitely a lot more hectic over and over and over. And the thing I want to point out straight off the bat here in this game is that the bus came out from the right side, and this actually made Hangar drops viable. We were talking a little bit during the stream about how the Hangar drop for a full trio is not necessarily the best idea at all, given the loot situation here. There's a Stark chest, really, really good, and then 2 other chests plus a bunch of floor loot, but that doesn't necessarily sustain a full trio for the game, right? So you never want to be left here alone, and you always want to be trying to contest for a little bit more loot, right? I can see some different splits arising, but I'm not sure which ones we're going to see. Regardless, coming from the right side, all of a sudden this unlocks Hangar as a potential actual drop without necessarily needing to, use the car to get over. And I was likening this Hangar to exactly like Frosty Flight, so it's no surprise that Aqua is really, really strong here. Not only to drop, to play off early game, but also tactically with his team. So no Riley gets the god drop for Stark test. Moki unfortunately loses that one. Aqua's gonna land on top of her, take her out right in front of another player right there as Reason lands in the backside. Found some loot out here and is now pushing in. This is the first time that we really see this team landing here, given the fact that there's so many teams you expected them to maybe sneak by and go towards risky reels. But with this drop, I think they're maybe a little bit more confident. In any case, they start off strong, one inside to get the Stark chest, and then one on the outskirts. It's like perfect. Not only are you going to dominate anybody who scuffs their drop like we did these two, you're controlling so much in Hangar. Meanwhile, these guys are not paying attention to you because there's, they're 50-50ing on their own. So you have this fight ongoing kind of by itself. So right now aggro has to make the decision. Do I go in towards the center and continue looting, or do I try to stay and play out for the back and maybe catch somebody off guard? Because he sees nobody inside of the Hangar, they go right for the center, and that's a trap. Now Noah's there. Now he's stuck. The timing works out perfectly. I don't think that was planned, but in any case, aggro is stuck. Noah comes in from the front. Icing on the cake is Reason over here. So this is a perfect way to drop for Hangar if you're getting contested here, especially given the fact that main is very heavily contested. So there's going to be shambles situation, and then Reason coming in from the backside to split this all off. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. It's really interesting to see how all these strats are developing, and I think the really nice thing is that this was a good testing ground. The Llobeti Cup was a good testing ground because nobody was really griefing, nobody was really conditioning the spot in any serious ways. Everybody was trying things. Regardless, I'm still really keen to stay up to date with it because there's clearly some room for improvement for everybody, not just the ones, who I said were really, really good strats. I think there's room for improvement, so we'll continue to watch. In any case, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm back officially. I won't let you guys down this time. I swear there will be more videos this week. So please like, subscribe, and do all the things on my social media, and we'll be back with more content just like this. Peace.